Shock Monkey Radio is entertainment for adults, by adults, and the views and opinions expressed here do not reflect upon the sponsors or FXBG Public Radio. For additional information, please refer to the United States Bill of Rights. Stand warned. So, imagine you're in boot camp. You know, you're all lined up in the barber shop. Nut to butt, they said. You got one guy in front of you, another guy in back of you, and you're waiting in front of all these barber chairs. And you're getting your head shaved. It's the first thing they want to do. They don't want any lice up in here. They don't want any lice up in boot camp. Believe me, it's a problem. All those people living together. So they're shaving heads. And I look over at one of the chairs, and one of the recruits, he had long hair. He was like a skater. I remember before he got the haircut, I was like, that guy looks like a skater. He's getting his head shaved, and he's crying. And I remember thinking to myself, one day I'm going to have a YouTube channel, and I'm going to mock this guy relentlessly. And so that's what I'm doing now. It's like, you're crying because your hair is getting cut, dude? I mean, I'm not going to say this guy's name because he could say, yeah, but you cried when the RDC was yelling at you for always coming in last in the runs. No, yeah. So, you know, we all, I don't know, I think we all get to a point at some point in boot camp where you break down a little bit. But, I mean, getting a haircut? I don't know. How'd the rest of it go for you? It's not like I followed that guy through boot camp. It's like, was he doing okay? Yeah, I don't think he was in my section. Anyway, so I don't get that. It's like people who get their hair cut and cry. You know, hair grows, right? It grows back. Anyway, it's not like you cut it and then it's gone forever. Because that'd be a different story, right? So, anyway. Welcome to Shock Monkey Radio. I'm your host, the Madman. I have... What am I pointing at here? I have a Patreon. Go to patreon.com/shockmonkeyradio. Become a patron today. I would appreciate it. Or you can send me money through the Cash App. Use the hashtag shockmonkeyradio, all one word. I also have social media over here. You can follow me on there on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram if you like. I've been posting more memes lately. I kind of like that. If you like memes, I try to pick my favorite ones and post them. So check those out. Yeah. I didn't know it at the time joining the Navy. You know, it's like, you know, how disenchanted I would be with organizations in general. You know, I left the Navy because I thought the corruption was too much. I felt like there's just too much corruption. I gotta get out of this place. And I didn't realize the corruption was everywhere. So, or I'll phrase it differently. The kind of corruption that I dislike is everywhere. It's in every organization. It's no matter how big or how small. The corruption, the things that I don't like are everywhere. And I guess I was a little naive at 20-something years old, deciding whether or not to re-enlist. I had this conversation with my friend John about, it's like, I'd rather if I'd spent like 4 years in the Navy and then switched to the Coast Guard and had fun for 16 years after that, and then I could have retired. You know, get half pay for the rest of my life. It's not bad. It's not bad. But I didn't. I thought, I'm going to be a big deal. I'm going to make millions of dollars as soon as I get out of the Navy. And that didn't really happen. But I mean, I had to do, there's no creative outlets in the Navy. Just very few creative outlets. The best I could find was in troubleshooting network problems and computer problems. I mean, that wasn't enough creative outlet. And so that's why, you know, I wrote poems and stuff like that. I was still writing poetry when I was in the Navy. I should bring them in. Maybe I think I've read a couple on here, but you know, not enough people say, "Hey, more poetry." So I'm not going to do that. But my dad found this book in some of his old stuff, some of my old poetry I wrote in high school, and it was really bad. It was really bad poetry. It was that 16-year-old poetry. And it was awful. And he said, "Oh, I found this in my books. It's your writing." So. And I looked at it. I kind of wanted to say to my dad, it's like, did you read it? Because I'm kind of embarrassed. Anyway. So, I had a memory shake loose this week. I keep forgetting this is backwards now. All right. I took clown classes years ago. I was part of this, Christian youth group. You know, they go and meet with other youth groups and stuff like that. And then they have like some people come in, they'll teach some classes. And so, me and a few other people, decided let's take this clown class, like how to be a clown. And so, and so, of course, you spend a couple of days. You're talking about like, well, you wear clown's clothes, you wear big funny shoes, you dress in practically. Anything that clashes is good. Anything that doesn't match is good. And so it's like, oh, okay, I get the basics. So in order to be a clown, you got to like kind of dress like a clown. Okay, we got that down. What's the next step about being a clown? Well, you got to do your face makeup like a clown, you know. And generally, you know, when it comes to face makeup as a clown, is you want to exaggerate the emotions. You know, you have a big smile, you know, big creepy smile like the Joker. And they're like, well, this is a Christian, you know, clown class, so just keep that a Christian clown class. That's probably the title for the show right there. This is a Christian clown class, so we're not trying to lead towards the Joker, the what's his name? William Gacy, Bill Gacy, what's his name? Is that right? You think of Bill Macy? William H. Macy? You know, the famous actor and murderer, William H. Macy. Yeah, okay, so. And so you go and we had classes where we sit there, we'd put stupid clown makeup on ourselves, and me and a couple of the other guys were already smoking at that time. It's like, oh, this isn't good. Well, this isn't a career choice because our teeth are friggin' yellow. There's no way you could pull off anything other than creepy clown. But you also did like exercises in exaggerated motions and doing like weird funny things and just being silly, you know. And a lot of that thing is like doing funny voices and exaggerating your features, even, you know, subtler things, you know. And in many ways, it's basic acting. And it's funny because I think it's funny that a lot of people are scared of clowns. And I love them. I don't understand. Why are you scared of that? So, yeah, this is Puddles. Puddles Pity Party. I figured if I was going to talk about clowns, I'm going to talk about my favorite clown, and that's my favorite clown. All right. I know he's a singer, but I like the gimmick, and I like clowns. You know, if somebody sees this guy singing a song and they get creeped out, it's like, how can you look how cute he is? So I was thinking about taking these clown classes, and like, because we took these classes, we came back and our church said, hey, you know, we're having this harvest festival or something like that. Why don't you two guys who went to those Christian clown classes dress up as clowns for the harvest festival? And like I said, we were already smoking at that point. And so we're like Vince Vaughn in, what was that movie? Old School? Drinking beers out back behind the church and smoking cigarettes. All right, let's go entertain some kids. You know. But it's funny because, you know, you do learn something and everything's like, oh, obviously, if you want to be a clown, you dress like a clown. You put on makeup like a clown. You know, you wear the uniform of a clown. I get it. But, I mean, there's also, like, subtle things, too. And it's a lot of stuff that I've used, you know, because clowns are an exaggerated version of acting, of manipulating emotion through, you know, human emotion through the way you behave and way you talk and stuff like that. And so you can take an even subtler, you know, approach to, you know, what it comes to being a clown into like your daily life as being an entertainer. If you're an entertainer, like I'm proposing I am right now, but I tend to get more fun out of spoken humor, verbal humor anyway. But I mean, there are little subtle things that I can do that are kind of like acting to convey emotion and connect with you on a human level. Unless you're a sociopath, then you can't do that. What's that like? Anyway, love clowns. I just wanted to talk about that for a little bit. So, I was outside the other day having a smoke. My friend John, and looked up and heard this jet sound. We looked up in the air, and John says, "Oh, look, it's a DC-10." And I looked at it, and I remember, you know, reflect upon my history with my friend and so forth. And I remember all those years sitting there playing Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. So many hours sitting there playing Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. And so I looked up at this DC-10, this white DC-10 flying in the air. And I said to him, it's like, if a black guy jumps out of it, get ready. And not catching on right away, John goes, oh, I couldn't tell if he was a black guy or a white guy from this distance, even if jump. And then slowly it dawned on him. The reference dawned on him. And he had a decision to make. It's like, am I going to climb aboard this imagination train that the madman just created? And John's answer to that was, yes, I am climbing on board. He's like, oh, yeah, yeah. And he does like a halo jump. He falls all the way down, opens the parachute right above the tree line and like sails in right next to us. And I was like, yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's exactly what would happen. And then he'd pull out a gun and say, break yourself, give me your car keys. And then we give him our car keys and then he shoots us, right? And as we fall down and start bleeding, that's when we hear the sirens. And then he says, yeah. And then we shout like, CJ, how many stars? How many stars, CJ? 2 stars. 2 stars, CJ yells back at us. And I'm going, oh, no. It's like our murders are not going to be solved. And this is why I like hanging out with people who do play role-playing games. You know, you have some silly hypothetical scenario, because that's really what like role-playing games are, is like the silly hypothetical scenario, and we're all playing like a bit of a part in it. And so, I mean, it's fun. It's incredibly, I don't know, it made me feel really good. Like, I feel like I've assembled the best group of friends any man has ever assembled, because I have people who play with me in conversation like that, because that's kind of how I play. I play verbally. Excuse me. That's kind of what this whole show is all about, is me playing verbally. You know, when I have guests on the show, or something, back when I had like a co-host, I was irritated with them, sure. You're interrupting what I want to say, you know? And you could argue, say, hey, this show could be better if there's someone in there to shut me down every now and then. So, oh, madman, you're getting way too off the hinges. Yeah, EK comes at me sometimes, but I mean, he does his best. Anyway, our unsolved murders. All right, I want to talk about a couple movies I saw this weekend, because they're pretty good. They're pretty good, and I think you'll agree with me. The first movie I want to talk about is The Stepfather. Great. I love this picture. It's good because it's kind of the crux. What is that called? The high point of the crescendo, the height of the crescendo of the story is the "Who am I here" line. It's a Stepfather. It's a 1987 movie. What was that guy's name? Something Malley. The Stepfather, 1987. Terry O'Quinn. O'Malley. Oh, I guess I'm racist. Yeah, Terry O'Quinn starred in this movie's Stepfather, and the beginning of the movie it's such a great hook. You know, the movie shows him like just some guy washing. You know, yeah, you see some blood on his hands. He's washing blood off his hands. He shaves his beard and takes a shower, and then walks out of the house. And in the living room, the camera's this scene of wanton murder, entire family just slaughtered. And the guy just walks out, starts whistling a song, starts walking down the road. It's a great hook. It's a great hook. And so the Stepfather apparently has some sort of weird fixation with families. And so he will wander around, you know, he'll get a job and so forth, making these fake identities and so forth. And he will target like single mothers, you know. He likes this concept of family, although he, you know, just ends up slaughtering them, you know. And it's interesting because the teenage daughter who is part of the family, she kind of catches him ranting in the basement a couple of times, which I thought were like kind of weird scenes, because she would go down and be doing laundry or something like that, and his workshop is down there, and he'll be down there like talking to himself and ranting and like banging on stuff, and she'll overhear it. You know, and it's like, and apparently like never tells her mom about how psycho this guy is. And one time she even catches him. She's like, oh, you know how it is. I gotta, you know, it's a tough thing, you know, being a dad and, you know, working, and I got a lot of stress. Sometimes I just got to get away to vent, you know, and this is what the workshop is for. And I think there's like some big red flags in this movie, but nobody heeded them. All right. And so he's got all these identities, and he's like, even transitioning is like, I don't even like this family anymore. I want to find a new one, you know, and he's got all these different identities and different like jobs and so forth. And finally it comes to this culminating moment where he's at his house with his wife, and, you know, he's a stepfather there, and he uses the wrong name to refer to himself. he screws up, and she's like, "What?" He just says, "Screw it." It just starts trying to murder everybody. It's a crazy movie. I know I give away a lot. I've given away a lot of the movie, but it's really a good movie. It's a lot of tension, especially between the beginning and the end, because the beginning was a hell of a hook, and then up till the end, it's you're just waiting for that other shoe to drop, literally. So, The Stepfather, 1987, 10 of 13 stars. I highly recommend it. I understand that there was like a new one made or something like that, a remake. I haven't seen that, so I will not talk about that. All right, now let's talk about the better film. I said 10 of 13 stars on that, right? I think so. All right, the next one I'll talk about is TimeCop. All right. Now, obviously, you should know that this is an excellent movie. If you haven't seen this, it's like, where have you been? This is a really, really good movie. Usually, when it comes to movies about time travel, I'm usually far more picky about like the details of the time travels. Like, I don't think that would work theoretically, but it's like that whole Bill and Ted argument. But the whole point of like Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure is that it's meant to be lighthearted, a lighthearted comedy. Bill and Ted anyway, not TimeCop. And so TimeCop is supposed to be a lighthearted sci-fi action movie, which it is. All right. And so as long as they don't get too deep into the weeds of time travel and so forth, everything should be okay, as long as it's kind of a shallow time travel movie, which it is. And that's what's good about TimeCop is every time it starts getting a little bit too much into the weeds, boom, you get an action scene. So, I mean, I guess it was like what they call that, like beats, the way they balance the beats of the film. They did a really good job at that, because you're like, okay, how long are we going to listen to this senator talking to himself? Lay off the fucking candy bars, he tells his younger self. Makes me wonder, like, if you're talking to like a younger version of yourself in the past, and you're like, lay off the candy bars, and you instantly lost like 10 pounds, and then you tell yourself, all right, now I want you to do 100 sit-ups every day. You look down, your abs don't move. And you look at your past self, and you say, you have to promise me 100 sit-ups every day. And then you look down at your abs, and instantly, whoop, you're like Rick and Morty. You're like, pow, pow, pow. You got a six-pack. So I think that's what the guy was trying to do when he was talking to a younger self. He's like, lay off the candy bars. Wanted to go look at himself in the mirror right after that. But TimeCop's about this guy. I should probably pull up the plot details, because I kind of forgot. Because there's a scene in there that kind of like overshadows every other one. I'll mention that at the end. TimeCop. All right, let's find the character's name. Apparently there's a TimeCop too. So Jean-Claude Van Damme was played by Max Walker. Mia Sara, we'll come back to her, plays his wife, Melissa Walker. Gloria Rubin as Fielding. She's that good-looking black girl that's in so many movies in the 90s. Ron Silver playing the senator. Yeah. Bruce McGill. Yeah, so he's an officer for a security agency, and then he's like being considered for this role of time travel police. And so and it's all interconnected with his life and his wife and his because she ends up getting killed. And then he becomes a time cop, and then is able to go back in time and fix it, even though that's against the rules of being a time cop. You're not allowed to do that, because what he's doing is he's chasing this senator who's traveling through time, who's trying to like gain power, like take control of the world by using time to raise money, mostly. It's like time, in many ways in this movie, it makes money seem more important than time. It seems like time's pretty important. But yeah, it's a really good movie. I mean, it's hard to break down in the sense of like the action, because it's action and the plot, and then action and the plot, and it's just really well. I think it's called beats or blocking. I forget. It's been a long time since film school. I didn't go to film school. Anyway, so yeah, directed by Peter Hyams, co-written by Mike Richardson and Mark Verheiden. I think Mark Verheiden, didn't he do... What is he known for? Predator, yeah. Aliens versus Predator. Okay. Film stars Jean-Claude Van Damme in his prime as Max Walker, police officer 94, later U.S. federal agent 2004, as a time travel has been made possible. Ron Silver as a corrupt politician, and Mia Sara as Melissa Walker, the agent's wife. The story follows Walker's life as he fights time travel crime and investigates the politicians' plans. All right, highest grossing film. TimeCop is Van Damme's highest grossing film as a lead actor. Second to break $100 million barrier. So obviously it's a popular movie. People liked it. People still like it. And I'll tell you why. Because this is a really good movie. I'm giving it 11 of 13 stars. And even though it's a really good movie, the cherry on top of this delicious sundae is you get to see Mia Sara's tits. You get to see Sloane's tits. Sloane's from Ferris Bueller. That girl, Mia Sara, 9-ish. She's around 9. That's super hot. Anyway, TimeCop, 11 of 13 stars. How have you not seen this? And like most movies that I mentioned, they're free to watch on YouTube right now. So if you want to check it out, you can go do it. That's why I picked those, because I know they're free, so you can check it out and see if I'm right or wrong. But you're going to love TimeCop, I guarantee it. Stepfather, not so much. I don't know, like, some people are real squeamish, like EK himself. He doesn't really like horror, like certain horror movies. And so I don't think he would like TimeCop. I'm sure he loves TimeCop. But I don't think he'd like Stepfather. Because I don't know, it's too intense. What was that movie we both saw? Compliance? I was thinking about the other day. Yeah, that traumatized EK. Compliance. It's a pretty messed up film. But some people have different tastes in that regard. I like that kind of stuff. Anyway, let's get into the news worth knowing. Moving right along. I'm kind of depressed, so I'm going to be hopping around happier stories. And one of the reasons why I'm depressed is because of this first story we'll get into. We always prioritize our news here. So Youngkin falls short in his mission to win the total GOP control of Virginia state legislature. All right. Democrats will retain control of Virginia State Senate and flip the state House of Delegates from Republicans, according to Associated Press projections, despite GOP Governor Glenn Youngkin's attempts to win total GOP control of the state legislature. The AP projects at least 21 Democrats have been elected to the state Senate and 51 Democrats have been elected to the state House of Delegates. It's unclear of how strong the Democratic majority will be in each chamber. Virginia's legislative elections grabbed outsized national attention, with both Democrats and Republicans spending millions on the races, which are viewed in political circles as a key barometer ahead of the 2024 elections for president and control of Congress. So, you remember all those ads that we're all seeing all the time? Every single time I got an ad on YouTube, it was Bill Peters, what's his name? I forget. See, because I didn't vote. I didn't vote. Maybe I should have, but I don't think it would have changed the outcome, with all things considered. I get to spend the next year kicking myself for not voting and then make sure, berate myself into voting at the next one. That's kind of how it happens with me. It's like every other year, But like I said, it's like there's not a whole lot of my one vote could have done in the outcome. The problem with it's why I hate representation based upon population. It's like just because Northern Virginia and Richmond and Hampton Roads area of Virginia are all liberal doesn't mean the rest of the people in the state believe the same things they believe. All those people in Richmond, those liberals in Richmond, they all work for the government, the state government in Richmond. All right. All those people in Charlottesville are liberals because there's the University of Virginia there. All those people in Northern Virginia are all liberal because they work for the federal government. They work in D.C. Federal money, federal contracts. And the more Democrat it is, the more money flows into their coffers, into their personal bank accounts. You know what I mean? And when there's not enough oversight and stuff like that, it's like, hey, it just all gets stuffed in people's pockets. And same thing with the Norfolk area. And all those military bases is It's stuff near the flagpole, rife with corruption. I don't like representation based upon population. Anyway, you wanna let's talk about let's slowly lead into lighter subjects. Slowly. So what the heck? 8, okay, 9. All right, here we go. My right click isn't working again. Every week. I bring my laptop over here, my right click doesn't work on the mouse. Anyway, liberal outrage online after Rashida Tlaib is officially censured in Congress. She was sold out by the Democrats, quote unquote. Liberal and conservative commentators sounded off online after the House of Representatives voted to censure Representative Rashida Tlaib from Michigan for her support of anti-Semitic rhetoric. 22 Democrats voted with 212 Republicans to censure Tlaib after she was criticized for sharing a video on the social platform X that included the phrase "from the river to the sea," a pro-Palestinian liberation slogan. No, that's an anti-Israeli slogan, genocide slogan. That's what that is. Quote, "If this is not worthy of censure, what is? When you can call for the annihilation of a country and its people, if that's not worthy of censure, what is?" Representative Rich McCormick from Georgia said on the House floor on Tuesday. Now, some prominent supporters of Tlaib spoke out against her censure online. NBC host Mehdi Hassan said that in so many Palestinians killed in the wake of the Hamas terror attacks on Israel, Israelis, American and other citizens, and the censure of Tlaib was hard to believe. Quote, 10,000 plus Palestinians killed, including 4,000 plus kids, and the U.S. House of Representatives is busy censuring the only Palestinian American member, Hassan wrote. Can't make this stuff up. He called out Republicans for the rhetoric over Gaza. For the record, Republican Congressman Max Miller said Gaza will be turned into a parking lot. GOP Congressman Brian Maston, Palestinian civilians are like Nazis. Republican Senators Graham and Cotton said level Gaza and bounce the rubble. But they censured Tlaib. Well, it's because Tlaib is wrong. That's why. You know, it's a shame about those quote-unquote Gazan civilians, but, you know, they elected Hamas. They allow Hamas to rule them. You know, and Hamas just puts them over the military targets so that when they are struck by Israel, they say, oh, look at all the civilians the Jews are killing. It's a psyop. Have you ever Googled the word psyop? Do you know what that means? It's psychological operations. Anyway, and Rashida Tlaib should not be in Congress. All right. Let's talk about a different Democrat with a different weird interaction. All right. So this is about John Fetterman. He says he can't fully understand a protester. Quote, joke is on you. I had a stroke. I think the joke is on the people of Pennsylvania, Senator. So Senator John Fetterman avoided responding to a furious protester this week, saying his past stroke made it impossible to understand what was being yelled. A pro-Palestinian activist shouted down Fetterman as a Pennsylvania Democrat spoke at a Get Out the Vote rally on Sunday in McKeesport, Pennsylvania. Quote, 4,000 dead plus children in Palestine, 9,000 plus dead civilians. Get off the stage, the unidentified protester heckled. The heckler continued, you have blood on your hands, get off the stage. Fetterman, who did not directly respond to the man's shout, said he could not understand what was being said because of his previous stroke. Quote, the joke is on you, I had a stroke. I can't fully understand what you're saying, Fetterman told the protester. The Pennsylvania lawmaker has been heavily criticized by far-left groups of Democrats for failing to call for a ceasefire in Gaza. The interaction in McKeesport is one of the few instances in which Fetterman has appealed to his verbal struggles as an impediment. The senator normally dismisses concerns that his linguistic struggles should compromise his ability to exercise his elected office. Correct. We don't need to read any more of this article. Here's the point. Is like, even if the guy is like, you know, I had a stroke, maybe I shouldn't weigh in too heavily on this issue. You know, I shouldn't have that severe an opinion because everyone knows I've had a stroke. So that's why he's not like trying to, you know, call for a ceasefire or anything like that. Or maybe he's smart enough to understand that, you know, Hamas has this coming. All right. The point is that the guy is allowed to have an opinion and is allowed to not toe the party line. And that's what's happening is a lot of these crazy ass leftists are trying to bully people who don't do exactly what they tell them to do. And respect to John Fetterman. All due respect to John Fetterman for standing his ground on that. Saying maybe I'm not informed enough to comment on the matter. I mean, hey, that's the point. It's like there lots of different people can have lots of different opinions. America. But the whole point is that, the people are not, you're not jumping on board this from the river to the sea train. All right, which is, that's the Jordan River to the Mediterranean Ocean. And if you don't know that's what the river to the sea means, that means all of that area from the Jordan River to the Mediterranean Ocean, that means they want no Jews anywhere in Palestine. But the real truth of this matter is that they want no Jews anywhere on earth. All right? They don't want anyone who isn't Muslim on earth. They don't want anyone who is not Sharia Muslim on earth. And they believe it's their holy war to kill anyone who isn't Shia Muslim. Excuse me. I think it's a simple choice. Simple. I'm on the side of the good guys, the good guys. We were playing role-playing games, and it's like the shame of it is that, superheroes don't exist, but supervillains and supervillain agencies do exist. And the worst supervillain agencies are people like Hamas, Hezbollah. Somebody needs to start injecting people with super soldier serums. That's what I'm saying. I wonder if people have tried. Maybe Russia. I think Russia tried to. We like the comic books. We dose him with radiation, see what happens. Maybe he becomes Superman. Okay. Let's get into some lighter stories. So, all right, local residents explode at Biden officials over a plan to release grizzly bears near their communities. Dozens of local residents in northern Washington recently voiced their strong opposition to the Biden administration plan to release grizzly bears, an apex predator in a federally managed forest area near their communities. More than 200 local residents attended a public comment session in northern Washington hosted by the Fish and Wildlife Service and National Park Service, with roughly 50 speaking in opposition of the federal grizzly bear proposal and just 6 voicing their support. Representative Dan Newhouse from Washington, Republican from Washington, who represents local communities, was among the speakers voicing concerns over the plan's potential consequences. Quote, as a farmer, I worry not only about bears destroying my crops, but the safety and well-being of myself, my family, and my on-farm hands. On-farm hands. You could just say farm hands. We know what you mean. Newhouse remarked during the session, it is clear you all know that grizzlies can and probably will move out of the zone in which you drop them in. Who's going to stop them? Yet, rather than letting common sense prevail, we are continuing to push forward to this dangerous plan. So tell me, if there's an agency's plan for dealing with crop loss and livestock depredation, and the inevitable from the introduction of these predators, what is the timeline for issuing lethal permits? How much will citizens have to lose before they can defend themselves from this predator in their backyard? Oh yeah, it's Washington. They probably can't have guns or nothing. Bears in the forest. All right. So, there's lots of reasons you should have a firearm. There's lots of reasons why you should have a firearm. And just one of them is that there's bears in the woods. All right. Yeah, your government may try to will kick down your door and enforce their tyranny upon you. Yeah. You want to protect yourself from criminals. Sure. But also there's bears in the woods. There's lots of good reasons to have a weapon. And it just seems to me is like if you live in a place where you're not allowed to have a weapon and there's dumping bears in the woods near you, time to move. Because the bears are going to take over. Because bears aren't going to be upset by legislation. No politician in Washington is influencing any bear. You get me? They don't even speak. All right. 2 more goofy stories, and it will be a short show today. All right, so I haven't been able to say anything those last couple months because I had to wait for People Magazine to make their announcement. But, I've been getting a lot of emails, been on the phone a lot with People Magazine, and they finally, made the announcement that the sexiest man alive of this year is Patrick Dempsey. They said it was a really tough debate at the offices at People Magazine. They're like, they're like 50-50 Patrick Dempsey, 50-50 Madman from Shock Monkey Radio. It was like, who's the sexiest man alive? And they said for political reasons and the fact that more people know who Patrick Dempsey is, they're going to pick Patrick Dempsey for the sexiest man alive. So congratulations to Patrick Dempsey being named the sexiest man alive. He's 57 years old. Now, I'm not going to read this article because I'm straight. But I do want to take a look at this picture, the competition. And I tell you, I get it. I understand that he's a sexy looking dude. But you know what? He looks a lot different from when he did when he was younger. All right, wasn't he in like a bunch of movies in the 90s and stuff like that? Like those crappy 90s college movies like With Honors. And was he in that? I want to do a quick search. With Honors cast. 94. Brandon Fraser. Joe Pesci. Why was I thinking Patrick Dempsey? This memory. He looks different. Let me see if there's like any images of Patrick Dempsey from that era. Yeah, he kind of looks different. It's like his nose is bigger. And it's like he's way better looking now. Is it true that like men get like more attractive the older that they get? Am I going to get more attractive? It doesn't seem to make sense. I don't think I'm any more attractive than I was when I was 18, 19. I mean, I have more muscles. I had less muscles then, but I mean, I also had less fat. So, I mean, it's and less gray. But, he's got the salt and pepper going on like some people do. But he looks like a different guy. It's like his skull elongated, and his nose kind of stretched with it. I mean, he's a good-looking guy. I get it, but that's what I mean. He looks better now than he did, years ago in the 90s. How's that? And it's like women generally, like, they'll get prettier. They won't necessarily get prettier, but they'll stay pretty for a while. And then it's just right off a cliff. Sorry. And, I imagine one day Patrick Dempsey and myself are going to have a day where we just go right off the cliff. Like, you start off, you're a baby and stuff like that, and you're a teenager. You're like, okay, I'm a 4 as a teenager, all the acne, All right, now I'm into my 20s. All right, I'm a 6. I'm a steady 6. Oh, I'm getting 20s to 7. 7 in my 30s, starting to get a little bit of gray in the hair. I'm about a 7. And 7. I might be a 7 into like, I don't know, 63, till I'm like 63, and then all of a sudden, I'm pooping my pants all the time and need a walker. And nobody is going to make People Magazine Sexiest Man Alive when you have the physiology of Joe Biden. All righty. One more story, and then we're out of here. It's an amazing universe we live in. I'm constantly in awe of it. So if you get a chance, unplug from your phone a little bit. Take a walk outside tonight. Turn off all the lights. Try to find a dark spot and try to see the northern lights. So more northern lights are going to be possible as Earth gets whacked by back-to-back geomagnetic storms. All right, so a series of eruptions from the sun sent solar, wind, and plasma blasting towards Earth, causing NOAA's Space Weather Prediction Center to issue back-to-back geomagnetic storm watches this week, and exciting sky gazers with northern lights displays. The first strong geomagnetic storm this week created aurora lights seen as far south as North Texas and North Carolina, but you got to get out away from the lights, like from cities and stuff like that. All right. A G3 level storm set skies on fire with a colorful aurora borealis in places near the Arctic Circle, like Alaska and Sweden. NOAA's SWPC issues geomagnetic storm alerts to warn of potential interference with communication systems and spacecraft operations. During significant solar storms, widespread power outages are possible and communication systems are subject to failure. Another round of space weather from a coronal hole high-speed stream, or CHSS, is set to arrive Wednesday into Friday. NOAA's SPC issued a moderate G2 geomagnetic storm watch for Tuesday, as fast solar wind associated with CHSS are lingering impacts of coronal mass injections event over the weekend. Did you follow all that? I kind of did. Impacts from the sun phenomenon are forecast to continue through the end of the week. So all week, take it, just like one night this week, drive out into the country, take a look at it. And if you've never seen the Northern Lights, if you've never seen Aurora Borealis, it just really puts things, makes you feel like part of this magical universe. Because only humans can look at that and say that it's beautiful. Everything else kind of doesn't really understand that. Nothing else can appreciate it. The tree doesn't understand what Aurora Borealis is. A gopher watching the things, they're like, oh, what the hell is that? I don't know. So they probably look at it with the same interest as they do one of our cars. It's like, what the hell is that? Big metal monster. Oh, look at that. Something weird in the sky. What the hell do I know? I'm just a gopher. But humans, we can look at that and say, oh, that's a sweet looking Mustang, dude. It's a convertible. Nice. And we can look at the sky and see Aurora Borealis and say, man, this is beautiful. Man, the universe is beautiful. There's gotta be some meaning to it all when there's this much beauty in it. So go out there, check it out. Check out the Northern Lights. Check out the Aurora Borealis. Apparently, your phone's going to be knocked out of whack anyway, because that's the whole point of that life exists on this planet, is because of the magnetic field of our planet. Because every time the sun erupts a jet of geomagnetic energy, a coronal mass injection, that could wipe out life on this planet if there wasn't a magnetic field in order to intercept it and channel it in towards the poles. And that's what the magnetic field does. And that's what causes the lights. It's our Earth. It's the very magnetic field of this planet protecting us from the sun. Isn't that wild? And the thing doesn't have a consciousness. The thing doesn't know what it's doing. It just is. So have a little awe. Look around the universe. It's pretty amazing. This is going to be the end of the show. I want to remind you again that I have a social media. Left and right. Social media over here. At Denaltz on Twitter. Shock Monkey Radio Redux on Facebook. And at SLRobbins13 on Instagram. And I have a Patreon. Go to patreon.com/shockmonkeyradio. Become a patron today. I would appreciate that. If not, you can send me money to Cash App. Use the hashtag shockmonkeyradio, all one word. I also have books available for digital download. Search for the description down below, and you can get links to my books for download on Amazon. Yeah, so this has been Shock Monkey Radio. I'm the Madman, and I love you.